If you have a student that has some accessibility issues, problems with hearing or sight loss, something like that, you might find using the built-in accessibility checker in Word a useful option for you, especially if someone is looking to read this document using a screen reader. So you can see here that I've created this tutorial to show students how they can use the editor in Word. It has pictures, text. I've inserted some page numbers and the author of the document and so on. And it's a couple of pages long. So how do I check it for accessibility to make sure that I'm meeting the legal requirements for information that I put on a website to be accessible to all users? So if I go up to the review tab, there is an option here to check accessibility. There are a few options underneath, but I just want to click the top of this icon here, which then opens this pane down the side, and it's telling me things that are errors, things that are warning, and it's making some suggestions from the AI. So the first thing we can do is we can add alternate text to some of these images. So the screen reader will recognize that there's an image in this document, and it will, if it's got alternate text, describe the image to someone whose maybe eyes don't work as they should. So if I choose this little drop down on rectangle 8, it's asking me, do I want just to mark this as decorative because it's not actually a functional part of this document? Or do I want someone to know that it's there so I can add a description? So it's highlighting this green box. This is just my attempt to point out where this tool is on the toolbar. So I can either add a description to this or I can just mark it as decorative. It's only really an extra little helpful bit of thing, so I'm just going to mark that as decorative. And the same with these other two rectangles here. I can just mark those as decorative. Okay, so now the screen reader will find these images, but it won't, read out green box because it's perhaps not that useful for someone who's using a screen reader. It's telling me here I've got some errors. And if I open this, I can see it's these pictures. They're not in line. So it makes it difficult for the screen reader to pick out the image when it's got text wrapped next to it. And it wants it to be kind of by itself in the document, so that as the screen reader makes its way down through the different elements of the document, it's able to recognize them and read aloud what's going on within the document. So if I choose picture 1, I get, again, if it's just decorative and it's just a bit of decoration and it doesn't add anything to the document, then you can mark it decorative. But if it does, and in this case it does, because I'm showing here where it is on the actual toolbar, I'm going to place this in line. And all that's doing is it's trying to move the text underneath so the screen reader can find it easier and a little bit quicker. Okay, so I'm going to close this gap. Same thing with picture 2. All right, so it's not in line because I've used the text wrapping option here. But again, I can just place this in line, move this text down a little bit, and just pop this back up in place, or even remove it entirely if it's not really helpful. Okay, so I've got a few more here, and I know I can see from this that it's gonna complain about this as well. So if I go to picture 4, it's telling me the same thing. It's not in line. All right, so I can place this in line and just move this text down. Once you realize this is a thing, then obviously you can avoid just wrapping the text around in future, so you don't get these errors appearing at all. For picture 11, again, place this in line, just move everything down to make it easier for the screen reader, and we just continue in this vein until we've all these errors are gone. Now I've got a warning here. It's telling me there's a problem with the table, but I can see here it's only this page number. So I'm not overly concerned about that. I know that's not really that big a deal. If I really want to change it, I can just change the style of the page number to something else. It's also telling me I've got a hard to read contrast on the number because it's put this orange background and the number's grey. But again, I can get rid of this and just change it to a different numbering style, which is a little bit easier to read, not a colour on top of a colour. And alt text, this is where the screen reader wants to describe what's going on in the picture. So it gives you a couple of options. You can verify this description. So it's guessing. It's saying it's a graphical user interface, it's application, it's Word. It's actually not that super descriptive. So I can change it to what it actually is, so the screen reader can show it. So editor tool on Word. So it's descriptive. Okay, and that's kind of how that works. Um, or again, you've got the option to mark it as decorative if you know it isn't really a functional part of that document, and you just continue in this vein until you've basically described everything, and eventually you'll get to a point where it stops telling you that alternative text is needed on pictures and pictures shouldn't be next to writing and things like that. And that's about it. If you're going to do this and save it as a PDF, then just make sure you go through this process before you then do the file, save as PDF, because PDFs are not all that great at being accessible, especially when created from existing documents. But if you go through this process first and then save as PDF, your PDF uploaded to a website should be accessible as well.